Hi, this is the Bitcoin Brief, and we're joined by a new guest, Rodolfo Novak. So we have Giacomo on today, obviously Tone, and Rodolfo. All right, Rodolfo, thank you so much for joining. Can you tell us a little bit about all the exciting things that you're up to and a little bit about yourself too?
Hey, I'm here in Calgary for the Bitcoin Rodeo this week, and we just launched our new hardware wallet, Cold Card. It should be shipping very soon, and that was just at building on Bitcoin. There was a lot of cool things that happened there. I guess we're gonna talk more about it.
Awesome, Giacomo. We missed you. How are you doing?
Missed you too, guys. A crazy week in Lisbon and then Ukraine. I'm doing fine, thanks.
Thanks, Giacomo. Tone, is your back better?
It's a little bit better. Not much news since our 2-hour show last night. I say we jump right into it. Let's find out. I couldn't make Lisbon. I wish I went to Lisbon. I wouldn't have destroyed my back at the gym. That it was happened at the same time.
Let's jump. And Giacomo, I started with you. So building on Bitcoin, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen Giacomo's amazing speech, it is incredible and it is up. I also retweeted it, Mir, pretty much everybody. There's been a great response, and also his Prezi is up, which is fantastic. But not to put you on the spot about your own stuff, I will turn this to Rodolfo. How did you like the conference, and can you tell us about it?
It was really cool. All the right people were there. It was nice to sort of talk to people and sort of get BIP 174 sort of going. And I found that like a lot of the focus was actually privacy, which is nice. We're done talking about scalability for a little while now, and it's time to move on to privacy. And it seems that a lot of the projects and a lot of the stuff that's being worked on, it's in that direction.
Fantastic.
Hey, can you define that BIP for us?
174?
Yeah.
It's PBST files. Essentially, it's a new standard for how you create unsigned transactions and create sort of like a file that you can put in any hardware wallet that supports it to sign it. And then you create another file that you push back to the network. So essentially, once most wallets are implemented this, it's pretty easy to implement, it should be very easy for all hardware wallets to work with all wallets.
And your wallet will have that?
Yes, it's a PBST native.
Awesome. And we're going to put you on the spot later to hear much more about what you guys are up to in your wallet. Giacomo, what was your favorite takeaways and highlights of building on Bitcoin?
Yeah, I agree with Rodolfo that it was very nice to hear a lot of talk about privacy. There was also CoinJoin XT presentation by Adam Gibson. That was great. The whole panel about privacy, moderated by Aaron. It was really one of the huge points of everything, including No Para's presentation, and also of course, Lightning Network was the king of the conference. It was very interesting that usually in this kind of conference you hear a lot of talks about presenting new ideas, like we can do this in the future. In this case, building on Bitcoin was about presenting new stuff. I presented RGB. There was people presenting new stuff that nobody had heard about before, but it was mostly about consolidating and illustrating how the new stuff is going on already. So there was a lot of review of the Lightning Network situation live. There was a great panel with on the screen Satoshi's Place screen projected, and people was drawing pennies during the panels. So it was like a great example of technology working.
Oh man, yeah, did they put up? I'm on there. It's like, how do I get a tone vase haircut in 2 easy steps? Was that on the big screen? Did you guys see that?
Yep. I'm not sure it was in the same moment because the things have a fast turnover. But yeah, it's great. And Bitcoin Koala, the creator of Lightning Koala, the creator of Satoshi's Place, was on stage, and he is his creature was modified in real time. There was a lot of talk about, of course, BAP 157158, so the neutrino, new kind of validation, which is better for privacy. So yeah, Lightning was, of course, I would say the core of the conference, because Lightning is the main example of building something on top of Bitcoin. It was absolutely cool. In Paris, the same organizers, which are great, Kevin Locke and Chen Smith, they did a break in Bitcoin that was mostly about adversarial thinking, which is good on Bitcoin. So we should have adversarial thinking. What can break Bitcoin? What can go wrong? But in Lisbon was for once we considered ourselves to do something positive, like what can we build on in a positive way, which is anyway very, very aware of adversarial and attacks, but it was very, very nice.
That's awesome. Did you know that you can buy Saifedean's book on Lightning?
yeah, that's great.
And just really quickly, Giacomo, can you just summarize what your presentation was about?
Mostly about Bruce Fenton, but jokes aside, it was about so people is trying to doing this asset on blockchain stuff since a while. Colored coins, alternative coins, ERC20, confidential assets on Liquid, but there is not a clear, in my opinion, there was not a clear path, a clear goal even. Why should we do this stuff at all? So while I still think that Bitcoin is the real stuff, so I'm personally not really excited about assets on Bitcoin. That's funny because I'm leading a project about assets on Bitcoin and I don't really care about assets on Bitcoin. But I think that there should be, at least we should focus on the right way to do it. Since people is doing asset on Bitcoin or on blockchain, they're doing it wrong. They are using awful standards, terrible standards like ERC20 and stuff like that. So I think that we should spend some effort into trying the best way to do something that is not yet clear if it has any real meaning or not, but at least we should do that in the proper way. So it's actually for us in BHB Network, RGB is an excuse because we want to experiment with new stuff, especially on Lightning and on the Peter Todd's idea of client-side validation and proof marshal. And this project is an excuse for us to experiment on Lightning Network a lot because RGB is based mostly on Lightning Network, and to experiment on these new ideas from Peter Todd because RGB is based on client-side validation and we'll have a proof marshal extension. So yes, it's a fun science project. Actually, right now my talk is pinned on Reddit and I received a lot of interview requests. So I'm not really excited by assets, but everybody else is. So I have a lot of success about this stuff, even if I don't really care about the asset stuff.
Nice. And just last question, I think the entire conference was filmed, right? And it's available to see the whole thing. Correct.
Sure, you have YouTube videos of both days. The first one in the in the proper Building on Bitcoin account. I think the second is still on another account because we have been censored during the beginning of the second day. YouTube took down the channel of the organizers for reasons, and so they have to switch to another channel. But it's pretty easy to find both days, and they are absolutely worth watching. Great speeches, and yeah, I absolutely suggest it.
That's awesome. All right, jumping into the stories and more tweets. So this one is by Napara73 by Napara, and just going to read it and turn it over to you, Rodolfo, to explain it, please. And the first part of the tweet storm is, I noticed privacy work in Bitcoin is gaining momentum. This time, it's not only research, but delivery too. Many exciting developments are in the finish line. Can you explain what then he goes on to say?
Yeah, so I mean, there were a lot of presentations there talking about privacy and how the Lightning Network works and how the propagation of the transactions work. And so BIP 157 and 158, they're gonna like help privacy. And then I think Nobara also launched Wasabi, his wallet, and that uses a bunch of like tumbling techniques that people have been working on. And then there's also score signatures, and that should help with the tumbling even better because it's a lot more efficient.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rodolfo. Giacomo, as well, thoughts? And I also brought up the second tweet, which Rodolfo just spoke to, which is the launch of Wasabi.
Yeah, Nopara's presentation was great. First of all, he discussed his personal experience. So he was detained for 12 hours with no reason when he tried to enter US in the borders, and then they released him just because there was a change in the guards switch was off, and the second guard didn't know the reason he was detained, so they just let him go for that reason. But that was used by Adam as an example to a lot of privacy related.
Hey, Giacomo, when was that?
That was just when Adam tried to attend Scaling Bitcoin Stanford. So last October or last November, something like that. And he arrived in the US, and they asked him why was him there. He said for Bitcoin conference. So come with us, and he stayed 12 hours without access to cell phone. And when the guards reached, they asked him, "Why are you here?" And he said, "I don't know." And then they said, "Go out," after 12 hours. And of course, he was very vocal before about privacy and such a thing. And so he discussed a lot about what should, for example, the name Wasabi is nice because he was creating a wallet all about privacy. And is giving the wallet name, which has nothing to do with, it's not like dark wallet or secret wallet or super private, it's Wasabi. So it's, there are a lot of considerations starting from the name of the project to, of course, the neutrino approach to SPV, to be more private, and what Rodolfo just said about future integration with Schnorr signatures and tumbling and Nopara's Chaumian cache. So there are a lot of technology. And this project, a little bit like also Samurai Wallet, is another wallet which is very focused on privacy. And this is very focused on privacy too. I hope that we will get from the competition between Samurai and Wasabi a lot of inspiration. Maybe Wasabi is very early as an experiment, but he's a cool guy. So I really enjoy. His speech was great.
Thanks, Giacomo. And wasabi, as we know, the more you eat it, it's got quite a kick. And if anyone saw Isle of Dog, which is an awesome movie, they have like a poisonous wasabi. Okay, Tone, when I turn it over to you, I saw this about Nopara. And there was the Roger Ver versus tone-based scaling debate reality check, and also your tweet about it this morning. So, you want to follow up with the boys, but also what's going on with what Nopara said about your debate.
Yeah, that was great. So I'm not gonna, I'll let these guys comment on all the privacy stuff. Obviously, you guys know that I'm a big fan of privacy. But Nopara, if you're watching, and I'm gonna tweet this at you later, you fact check my debate with Roger Ver a year and a half ago. So Leah, if you scroll down to just before the conclusion, right at the end there, right before the conclusion, right there. Too much. Yep, right there. So in my debate with Roger, I had said that wallets are ready to do SegWit except blockchain.info. You fact checked me. This is back in like February of last year. And you said right there that Leah has highlighted that blockchain.info is ready for SegWit. And yet they still have not implemented SegWit. So I was right. They said, blockchain.info said they were ready for SegWit in January of 2017, but they still have not implemented it like I expected, mostly because they're funded by Roger Ver.
Yes. So, okay, moving on to Blockstream. We got such brilliant techies on today. Thank you again, Rodolfo, that we now have you. All right, so Blockstream, users can now conduct atomic swaps between Bitcoin and issued assets. Giacomo loves assets now that include altcoins, meaning that a Bitcoin can be exchanged for an asset in a single transaction without using intermediaries. Finalizing a transaction takes less than 2 minutes. I think I kind of summed it up, but yes, Rodolfo, can you please explain what the latest is that they just released?
I'm actually not super familiar with Liquid, even though I was there. It's an atomic swap structure, so that you can exchange like two different assets in one transaction. This kind of idea is really good if you want to make a decentralized exchange, for example, right? So you can have some sort of system that tracks the books, but then people actually exchange directly the assets.
Thanks,
What do you,
Rodolfo.
I mean,
Giacomo?
no, Rodolfo, what do you do? Do you think this is a good idea? I mean, do you like the fact that we are putting assets like Bitcoin will now represent assets? Do you think that's a good idea?
I think Giacomo made the case, and I take his point. You know what? If they're gonna do scams, might as well use Bitcoin too, so that I don't have to waste my time saying Ethereum is garbage on Twitter.
I love that. Thank you, Giacomo.
Actually, this is not another interesting situation. So just like now everybody is calling me for interviews about assets, and I don't really care about assets. This news about Blockstream putting assets on Liquid is not news. We discussed it on Bitcoin Morning Brief probably like 4 months ago. If you remember, I gave you the paper and we discussed it. So this is nothing new. Everybody knew that, but they confirmed that they are putting confidential assets, and magically this name assets on blockchain created a lot of buzz, and now everybody is talking about it. When blockchain will launch, they will launch Liquid in a few weeks, or I hope not months, but they are very close to launch. They will probably not have the asset function enabled at first. That's especially for legal reasons and not for technological reasons. So it's really a lot of attention about this stuff. People is very excited about assets. I don't know. Anyway, the technology is very neat. If Liquid with confidential assets on top was going to work indefinitely in the future without censorship or without limitation, I think that projects like our own RGB project will be kind of redundant. So this technology is neat. They have the best technology. Confidential assets is a cryptographic magic that can hide the amount of the transaction, like in confidential transactions, plus the type of the assets. So you don't know if these guys are exchanging Bitcoin, or they are exchanging a Tether-like dollar, or they are exchanging equities or illegal securities. You don't know, which is great for anonymity set and for privacy. But the point of Liquid is that it is a very ambitious experiment, because it's a federation. So it's easier to censor than Bitcoin. So if Liquid works, it works better than Bitcoin. It's more efficient, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's more extendable. So when it works, it's better in any possible way than Bitcoin. The problem is that it may not work forever. The regulators could try to limit or crack down or shut down entirely Liquid. So they have to be very careful of what they put on it or not, while the regulators cannot shut down Bitcoin. The nice thing about Liquid is that Blockstream is honest about the fact that this is a federation which can be censored. They are not pretending this is decentralized like Ethereum guys are doing.
Thanks, Giacomo. Tone, you're not wearing your Blockstream shirt today, but...
No, I am. This is actually from Blockstream as well. Yeah,
I can see it. Okay.
Got the logo
then
on
you
the back.
wore the same one last night. All right. It's
yeah, I
okay.
haven't moved.
You still got it.
I'm stuck in my chair. But yeah, so like I don't have a really big problem with using Bitcoin to move assets anonymously. I think it's borderline stupid to tie real life assets to Bitcoin. I think it just adds a layer of unnecessary complexity. And like the assets themselves are physical, so they're still at risk of confiscation or whatever. But that's not a scam. As far as using the Liquid project to move other tokens around, I'm not really happy that Blockstream is getting involved in that. So I'm not sure what the hell they're thinking on that. I don't have to always agree with them. I'll agree with them like 95% of the time. Like I'm okay with like using a Satoshi to transfer an asset. But that's about it. I just don't see much utility for that. assets in the physical space should be, left to centralized stuff. It just makes no sense to decentralize.
Don, please take it if you can, when you have time. Take a look at the video of my presentation.
I saw your presentation.
Okay, so you know what kind of, because I agree with you fundamentally, but still I think we can give some benefits of the doubts about some reasons to leverage independency between the issuer and the transfers. Probably.
Yeah, no, I mean, there could be a use for it. I also don't think this is absolutely necessary right now. Privacy should probably be a slightly bigger priority of actual Bitcoin, not Bitcoin tied to actual things.
Yeah, no, it totally is. Privacy is a priority, and you can see by the amount of projects. But, I mean, I personally don't see the point of assets on the blockchain because you can't enforce the blockchain on assets. Like, it's like if you register a real estate property on the blockchain, well, great. So, it still has to be enforced by boots on the ground, sort of thing. So it's kind of pointless. Maybe, if you start having international corporations and friendly locations that will let you actually enforce like your shares, that could be interesting. But then, just using the systems as an exchange, that could be cool. But it's just one of those things. It's just a solution looking for a problem.
Interesting. Thanks
for
that.
I agree with that.
Well, since you guys evoked decentralization, let's just go to obviously the most decentralized exchange, Bancor. So just a story on this before we, lovely Tone's tweets are always so nice. So we'll let him explain this one. But so Bancor lost roughly, I believe it was $13.5 million when they just recently got hacked. And just to say, the developments come more than a year after I think Bancor raised something like 153 mil in their ICO, which represented the largest token sale of its kind at that time. So also what I think is fun, which maybe, Tone will do later, but probably not, is that the incident affected Bancor's BNT token like so terribly that the token's price right now is roughly down 14% during the past day. It's actually trading at 2.73. So I appreciated that one. But yes, Tone, ABCD, what's up?
I actually did not even look at the price of the Bancor token. I don't understand why it's only down 14%. It should be down like 86%. It should be down the opposite of that. They froze the tokens. They're proving that they're a decentralized exchange. I didn't even know what the hell Bancor was. I mean, I knew it was an ICO scam, but I didn't really know what the hell they did. They're showing you two things. They're showing you, one, that developers programming a decentralized exchange are incompetent to program anything. Like they're incompetent to program VBA on Excel. And they are obviously, Ethereum itself is not helping them with any security there. And they're proving that they're totally centralized and that they're in full control of their tokens. And if they wanted to, they can just freeze everybody's tokens and take them away. So when the SEC or any other government agency shows up at their office and tells them to just burn every single one of their tokens because they got labeled as security, they absolutely will, because it's a completely centralized system, which is what we've been saying on this show and before I even had this YouTube channel for years, that this is all centralized companies pretending that they're doing something stupid in decentralization world, assuming it even works, and they're not decentralized at all, and they're just scamming to get money to do something, and they made millions. All of these things are going to end the same way. This is going to happen to every single ICO, or the government will just come in and shut them all down. They're not censorship resistant in any way, shape, or form, and Ethereum is like all of them. Like Ethereum is no different. They're building on top of a system that's exactly like they are, an insecure, centralized, illegal security. That's all they are.
Well, that'll be a good tie into our next piece about ICOs. But in the meantime, Giacomo, was this kind of problem possible to predict?
Yeah, it was. It was actually back then when Bancor was launched. There was a unblockchain expert. I suggest you to follow him on Twitter, Udi Wertheimer. I think they pronounce Wertheimer maybe. And he was researching the Bancor smart contract, and he find like what these guys can in the smart contract. This guy can actually freeze every fund, delete every fund from accounts, inflate at will, so they have total control. And he said that clearly, and nobody cared, of course, because nobody cared during hype of the security problems. And the interesting thing is that this hack actually used the backdoor that the developer put, the super god divinity superpower that the smart contract was granting to the owners, were exploited in order to perform this hack. So yeah, it was an announced disaster, and people researching on this kind of scams already pointed out that problem. It's also interesting what you said, Leah, about the price falling. This could, I mean, 15% is not enough, is not very much, but this will be the first time that an actual technical fuck up is really affecting the price of a scam token. So let's hope that that's the beginning of a trend of connection between security and technological value, which is zero, and market value, which is still very, very too much high. So with these guys, I'm super sorry. I have to go already. I know that it was very, I was a ghost in this week, but I also have to run right now. It was great to have Rodolfo here, and see you, I hope, tomorrow or Wednesday.
Bye, Giacomo. Thanks.
Bye, Giacomo.
Very, very interesting point, Giacomo. And Rodolfo, following up on Giacomo, what were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know, Ethereum is a factory of scams, right? It's a mutable, centralized blockchain that, you know, doesn't scale. I think that somebody published that the Ethereum has 10,000 daily active users. That's less than, you know, your T-shirt shopping cart. It's such a shame because this is a waste of, you know, developer time and sort of media time but I don't know. I still think there's too much money on the table, and people want to still sort of do penny stocking. So my prediction is next year we see 10 times the amount of money being put on ICOs. It's gonna take a long time.
Wait a minute, Rodolfo. I'm gonna push back on that. I'm actually in the middle of recording my next crypto scam episode about why Ethereum can't scale. Are you sure Ethereum is gonna last another year? Like, unless you are expecting these ICOs to mushroom out across EOS, and Tezos, and Neo, and all, because Ethereum is not lasting a year, especially if ICOs grow.
I mean, Ethereum is already like, what is it, 800 gigabytes?
Oh no, it broke a tera. It was 1.1 tera. It was 1.1 terabyte like a few weeks ago, so it could be up to 2 terabytes now. So no one really knows because nobody can download the full chain anymore. I
mean, I've tried running their node before; it doesn't work. I've been saying that Ethereum is garbage now for, I don't know, like since they started that idea. But it turned out that, you know, like everything, you know, in business, not having decent technology doesn't impede people from running scams, right? I mean, it's you know, it's kind of like having all this in intranets and it never ends. I think that you're not going to be able to. They won't even bother building on Ethereum anymore. It was just sort of, you know, you make a website. You say, here's a Bitcoin address, deposit here for your money, and we're gonna make something that's AI related with VR, and we already have all these VCs in line, and everybody's buying at the bottom. You know, it's your usual Ponzi.
I love that. Again, I always think about Seyfedin's quote when he was when you interviewed him, and he said that, I believe that if you don't know if it's a scam coin or shit coin yet, you just haven't researched it enough yet.
But, yeah, that was a great point. I don't know if you saw that, Rodolfo.
No, the
only coins that aren't shit coins are the ones you haven't researched yet.
Yeah, it's there is no need for this stuff, right? And it's fascinating to me that you can just sort of announce, hey, I am putting AI in a rocket, but buy my token. Like, who gives money to these people? I don't understand.
So just one last thing on Bancor. So this is the tweet that Giacomo mentioned before we had to lose him there. And the tweet itself says, before clicking into the image, is based on currently published details, it seems that Bancor hack was enabled by permission backdoors that were put in the smart contracts by the team and were presumably compromised by the attackers. It's in. And Rodolfo, do you want to just make one last comment on that one?
Well, I mean, like most hacks, somebody decided to cash out.
Yep, exactly.
More like that than anything else.
Well, here's the beauty of it, right? Is the fact that you don't know if it was the hackers or Bancor. And I know when you accuse Bancor, they're going to be like, well, why are you accusing us? Well, when you build something this stupid, and you will never be able to prove that you did not hack your investors. And and if you can't prove you did not hack your investors, you have a problem.
Yep, it's unfortunately also, I think this always been enabled because nobody went to jail, a few years ago when all this stuff started. And when you have like a lot of regulators themselves owning Ethereum, this is not going anywhere. It's it's a very biased thing. And to be fair, I mean, regulators probably love Ethereum because they know it's centralized. They know, they can just ask nicely and Vitalik will roll back the chain. We've seen this before.
Yeah, and not just regulators. There's an announcement yesterday that Andreessen Horowitz's new $400 million crypto fund is now their first investment is going to be in a ICO. So that's
what a surprise. We called that one on this show.
We called it. Unfortunately, completely called it. And well, at least this was good news. So half of ICOs die within 4 months after token sales are finalized. I think we're all a bit happy of this news coming out, but again, not that surprised. And just going to mention, this is on the back. I don't find it as huge news because I believe it was a week ago that Bloomberg, and we covered it in the show, had said that already 1,000 ICO tokens had already gone to zero and died. But Tone, thoughts on the piece and what just came out?
Yeah, I mean, people are going to continue to be stupid until this bubble actually pops. And this is where I run into a big problem, right? Like I go to these conferences and I sit on stage with like these, I don't know, delusional people that like rally the crowd. You should have also made money on the Facebook pre-IPO. These rich fat cats are not allowing you to invest in the dumbest, stupidest ideas. Now, I wish they said that. They're like, so they all these people think that it's worse than playing the lottery. Like right now, you could get lucky with an ICO, but they're all going to zero, all of them. You think you're playing the lottery right now and you keep winning and doubling down, but all of them are going to end. I'm not surprised that half the ICOs are already dead and they're all going to die. And unfortunately, until Ethereum actually implodes, people are not going to realize it. And even when Ethereum implodes, everyone is going to be like, but EOS will not have this problem. Tezos will not have this problem. But they're all the same. I don't know where it ends, but it looks like this is a global problem. And it's just I'm almost with Rodolfo. Like it has to get worse. I mean, this has to be a bubble of like biblical proportions for people to get it, that all of this is just pure garbage.
It's I mean, it's kind of like a lot of the stocks anyway. So, if you go on the Toronto Stock Exchange, it's kind of funny because we have a lot of mining, reverse takeover mining shell corporations. And the reality is all the people who the reason everybody knows these ICOs go to zero, but everybody also know that you're going to have a nice little peak. And if you're in the scam, you're dumping at the right time. So, you know, this is a hot potato that everybody has the info in it, unless, you know, you're the third or fourth in line to be the sucker.
Yeah, absolutely true. I did find that interesting, that they were a bit evoking about the piece. I think that unintelligent investors would read this piece and say, all right, it's important to get in on the first day. Let's get in on that pump and dump. But if you actually understand what this piece is saying, is that all shitcoins are going to zero, and it's happening just as fast. Well, it could happen faster. That would be great, but it's on its way. So, Tone, unless you want to say the word shitcoin one more time, we can switch to Switzerland.
Yeah, let's go to Switzerland.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so Swiss planned first end-to-end exchange to trade digital assets. I actually found this kind of interesting. So just to say, it says right here, the new platform will offer a fully integrated end-to-end trading, settlement, and custody service. This is the world's first to do so. I liked the piece in that it's finally Switzerland stepping up, and which they have in different ways, because they want a piece of the action, of course, as Switzerland always has regarding banking, but that they're being very pro Bitcoin and cryptos in regard. And in this environment, we've just seen so many negative comments and understandings coming out from different countries. And again, just to note, this is very much all happening in Zug. But yes, I'll turn this to you first, Tone. What did you think when you read this piece?
I'm finding this interesting. Like, I knew sooner or later a real exchange is going to get, you know, into Bitcoin, actually, you know, trading Bitcoin. Now, this doesn't make it clear as to what assets they're going to be trading, right? If they're only going to do Bitcoin, that's fine. But most likely it's Zug. That's where, you know, Vitalik reigns as well. That's where Ethereum started. Well, they're started in Toronto, so maybe I should blame Rodolfo for that one. You guys couldn't stop it. It's your backyard. But Zug is pretty popular for a lot of these scam coins. So I don't know what this exchange's intentions are. Right now, it sounds like they just want to be in the news. They may or may not do this. They may not get the clearance to do it. If they get the clearance to do it, it's going to be very interesting, because I don't think they're going to allow people to move these assets off the exchange to themselves, right? Because if it's a real regulated exchange, like, I don't get a chance to take possession of my Apple stock. It kind of just stays with the broker, right? So if they're an exchange, well, also remember, in the traditional space, there's exchanges and there's brokers, right? They're not one and the same. So I haven't researched this company in particular, but it's also and Bloomberg did write this article, so they should know better. So I'm more curious, is this a broker or is this an exchange? Because it's not both. Like, I don't actually trade on the New York Stock Exchange. I trade on Interactive Brokers or Options Express or Fidelity or whatever, right? And they route my orders to an exchange, right? So if they're an exchange, who are they going to be routing crypto transactions to, right? So chances are they're probably a broker, and I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think they realize what they're doing, because this isn't that simple. This isn't simple to integrate this wild, wild west into a real traditional platform. I mean, if anything, they might get into the OTC business. They might figure out how to get their hands on some Bitcoin, and they might be able to broker some OTC deals because they have a lot of rich, high net worth clients. But as far as, you know, giving some guy in, like, on the other side of the world the ability to trade through them, I don't see that happening at all, because I don't think this company is interested in, you know, disappearing from the world based on regulation, whether it's European, Swiss, or whatever.
Yeah, interesting.
So much more information is needed here. We're all completely speculating.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, which I find very interesting, is that it seems that they're trying to fuse the world of traditional and crypto finance, and what that may mean or how they're even going to do it. does kind of seem that the platform is going to try to host all elements of the trading under one roof, unlike the other crypto exchanges that use the third parties to execute parts of the chain. But again, it's very vague, and also they aren't saying which cryptos are going to be on it. Rodolfo, what did you think when you read this?
I think they're just gonna do sort of like your standard crypto exchange, and that's it. I think they're sort of trying to bamboozle with like a little bit more meat in this article, but I think it's just gonna be just another exchange that's based in Switzerland. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, legally, the only things they will be able to trade are things that the government has deemed a security, right? They're not going to be able to trade like, I don't know, Bancor ICO tokens, right? So they can trade Bitcoin because, I'm sorry, they can't trade Bitcoin because Bitcoin is not a security, right? So they're a securities exchange. They're supposed to follow securities regulation. So they're only going to, so they might wait for the government to rule X a security for them to trade securities. This piece has absolutely like not enough details whatsoever. I mean, there's so much more involved here that I don't think it should have even been written until you know exactly what they're actually even thinking. Forget what they can legally do.
Yeah, and let's just note that it was very recently, right, that Vitalik at a Zug conference said, quote, right, it was something like, I definitely hope all centralized exchanges go burn in hell, right? Something like that. I mean, I see Rodolfo's face laughing.
The hypocrisy on it is just too delicious. I mean, you know, talk about the guy who asked all the centralized exchanges not to process the transaction
right
now, right? I mean, come on. So now you don't like it, you know, and the fact that Ethereum is completely centralized, sort of just, you know, just.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to end on, again, they're really not saying anything on where Bitcoin and the other cryptos will fit into this platform. So it's absolute speculation, to your point, Tone. We are going to move to CBOE. And I guess just one last thing, like I was kind of researching it. There's like a little bit in like a Swiss paper. There's really like almost nothing about what they're trying to do or doing, but they like the CEO was alluding that the platform could actually help clients create ICOs. So, you know, well, yeah. All right. And yet that they're going to be decentralized. I mean, I think it's going to maybe be a fun one for us to talk about on this show. So CBOE files with SEC for the Bitcoin ETF. Tone, simply put, is this going to be the one that goes through? Gets blessed?
I don't think so. I mean, CBOE is obviously, I mean, they're respected. They're big in the option space. They have a futures. They do futures as well. They, for some dumb reason, decided to front run the CME, who are much bigger experts at the futures market. They decided to front run the CME and launch their more inferior Bitcoin futures 2 weeks before the CME did. I'm like I don't know, like some of the moves that the CBOE is making in the last 2 years seem very, very questionable to me, and just as an outsider, right? Now this is like application number 804 to get a Bitcoin ETF in. Everybody and their mother is filing applications with the SEC to get a Bitcoin ETF in. I still think that if there is going to be a Bitcoin ETF, it will be awarded to ProShares because they actually know what they're doing when it comes to ETFs. They're an ETF company. If there is going to be a legit Bitcoin ETF, it's going to come from either, you know, the S&P who do ETFs, or it's going to come from like ProShares or some of the other actual companies that specialize in ETFs. This is just another application. And I mean, the SEC will look at it, but it's not going to be that different than the Winklevoss trying to get an ETF for years. Obviously, CBOE has a better standing with the regulators than the Winklevoss twins do. but I don't see an ETF coming this year. Probably not even next year, but there's a chance it could show up next year. And if there was no GBTC, I would probably have said there isn't going to be a Bitcoin ETF till like after 2020. The only reason why there might be a Bitcoin ETF is because right now Barry Silbert has not only a monopoly, he has a very bad, it's not even an ETF, right? It's an ETN or an ETP or whatever the hell it is. And it's ETP, right?
Yep.
Right. So Barry Silbert, yeah. He has an ETP, exchange traded product, and it's bad. Like, it's badly designed. It's gotta embarrass the SEC for allowing Barry Silbert's ETP on the market. Now, I know a lot of people are happy because they can trade Bitcoin on the actual regulated exchange, but that product is horrendously designed. And if you are going to allow people to trade Bitcoin on a regulated exchange, it needs to be designed properly. And I think the best company to do that would be ProShares. Now, the SEC could disagree with me, obviously, and they can award it to CBOE or the Winklevoss. But I think if anybody gets it, it would be ProShares.
Interesting. Yeah, and just for everybody, remember the Winklevoss. Yeah, Winklevoss. I always get that. All right. The Winklevoss twins ETF proposal was rejected, right, by the SEC. And that was specifically, they cited that manipulation is why they said that. So I brought up just the official form before I turned to you, Rodolfo, and I did read it. It's pretty interesting in that, and GBTC, that is funny. I'll say one quick comment. It's just that in the document, what they filed is that they emphasize that the trust, again, referring to the CBOE, will invest specifically just in Bitcoin, again, which I do like, but on behalf of the investors. So essentially, CBOE is going to facilitate, the way I see it, Tone, tell me if I'm wrong, it's like OTC trades amongst accredited investors. Everybody, obviously, it is accredited investors, point that should be taken in the traditional finance market. So while ensuring funds in Bitcoin acquired by these investors, just a quick note. Maybe my question to you, Rodolfo, one, what did you think about this news? But also two, what do you think that this, if it is passed, could mean for global markets? Just in light that we often talk about how, right, the Japanese government has kind of remained at the forefront of global, crypto regulation. Do you think that at least even CBOE and the SEC talking about it more could potentially snowball?
There is a lot of people that want to put their IRA or in Canada, you want to put your pension and that's sort of tax free. If you invest if you buy investments, and you can't do that with hard assets, it's very hard. It's needed. I mean, like Tone says, the GBTC is, it's extremely overpriced. It's a very weird setup. So, ETFs on anything are great. It enables the average sort of trader to just add that to their portfolio, and that's a huge thing. I still don't fully understand what the repercussion of having sort of paper Bitcoin and Bitcoin, in the market in a large scale in a few years, but it's going to happen. An ETF is going to happen.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I agree with Tone. It's a question of when. GBTC and Tone and I are often debating about this. He doesn't like it as much. I agree with you. It's extraordinarily nuanced. The cool thing, though, is that it is blessed by the SEC, so you can, as you said, put it in your retirement funds or any money manager, or just we can go to Fidelity and play with it ourselves. But yeah, the premiums, the vesting schedule, everything is very complicated, and it's not Bitcoin, right? It's just investing in Bitcoin, follows Bitcoin, kind of, not really, but yes. And my honest, just say it really quickly, I don't think that the SEC would have blessed it I think that they maybe jump the gun and don't appreciate what they already did. But so we'll see how long it takes. I agree with both of you guys. I think it's going to take a while, but we'll see. I like ETFs too. Tone, what's up with price?
I'm going to quickly fact check myself. People say, hey, when you buy Apple stock, your broker doesn't actually have it. The CEDE has it. And that's that thing that Patrick Byrne has a huge, fight against. It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. When you buy Apple stock, it's irrelevant who holds it. You are confident that you can profit from that stock and you get the dividend and all that. As long as there's confidence in the system, it will keep going, and it doesn't matter. I said this 4 years ago when I came to this space and everybody was saying what a scam the stock market is. If everyone has confidence in it, it's totally irrelevant. Rodolfo, I'm wearing your hat, by the way.
Nice.
Thanks, man. So before I do price, tell us, Cold Card, when's it launching?
Yeah.
So we are, let me see if I can get one here.
Like, are people actually like if I show up in Toronto tomorrow, not that I am, but if I will, can I buy one from you? Like, are they like already available?
Yeah. So here's the thing. There you go. That's what it looks like. That's the final production model. We have like
show it again. Show it again. I got you on the big screen now.
There you go.
There it is.
That's cool.
So that's not a private key, is it?
No, it's just a demo. That's what
Next time.
So we are essentially like, we're mostly ready to ship. The units are actually on the production on the factory floor, but we're waiting for BIP 174 to just be a little bit more finalized, because that is the standard that we're using for communication with this device, and it would be nice if it's done so that we don't have to send an upgrade, because we are already, like, we're essentially done, but we have the original spec for 174, and there's been a few changes to finalize it now, and sort of we want to get those in before we ship.
All right, gotcha. So what's the ETA? End of July, maybe? What do you think?
Possibly. I hate promising dates on hardware sales, like on shipping, because oh man, you just never know. But it looks like, from the dev mailing list and from the GitHub issues on that BIP, it looks like we're almost there.
Great.
And then we ship. But if it looks like you won't be ready in the next sort of month or two, then we're just gonna ship with the original spec and then just send an upgrade. It's gonna be pretty easy to upgrade. It's just gonna, you can download the firmware from us and just put an SD card and put it in, and boom, you upgrade.
That's awesome. Can't wait to hear more. Stone.
Very cool. All right, let's take a look at the price, guys. Soccer match is starting in 2 minutes, so I got to make it quick. And
yes,
Rodolfo's got to get to a conference. We talked a lot about this last night. Since last night, Bitcoin took a little bit of a tumble. I got my weekly 9. It's not a perfected 9, but it's a 9 nonetheless. Let's see how this week concludes. There is still time to get a perfected 9, though to get a perfected 9 is not going to be easy. Perfected 9 is, of course, a stronger indication of the move, and it's what you want to see. And in order to evaluate what's going to happen going forward, and in order for us to get a perfected 9, we would need to have an intra-week low lower than the low in June, right? So the low in June was 57.80, make that 57.75, and we would need to go lower than that over this week. Today is only Tuesday, so there's plenty of time to get down there. Maybe 50-50 that's actually going to happen. I'm not sure myself, but so what to look for, right? So you got your 9 on the downside. Now, normally you would look for a 1 to 4 candle correction to the upside off the 9, and then probably more downside. The problem is we already had a couple of weeks correction as the 9 was forming. So that makes evaluating the weekly chart really, really tricky. I would say that on a weekly chart basis, if Bitcoin falls below 6,000 yet again, if Bitcoin falls below 6,000 yet again, that's a huge problem. Like, I know Van Zen thinks that 6,000 will be defended, but I go the other way there. Like 6,000 cannot be defended forever and ever and ever. The more times we hit 6,000, the worse it's going to be eventually. So if we hit 6,000 again and go below it, one of these days, you're going to accelerate real quick down. So here's the daily chart. And what we're talking about is here's what happened. You're forming a monster descending triangle. Like if you go back to this area here, here's what happens when the $13,000 area was being defended 3 times. And on the 4th time, we fell, what did we fall? $3,500 in one day. We fell from 1,300. And then 10,000 kept being defended. And then we fell at $1,300 in one day. So one of these days, 6,000 will not get defended, and we're going to fall close to $1,000 in one day. If that's not today, right? I mean, today we already fell over $300 in one day. So falling $1,000 in one day from 6 to 5, in my mind, is inevitable. You just don't know when that day is, which is also why I kept saying that and me and Tyler both said last night, if you think you're going to go long into 7,000, that's crazy. You're trying to gain a few $100 on potential thousands of dollars of downside. That's not smart trading. So the daily chart has this blue line. If we cross this blue line, things are going to get ugly. The blue line is at about 62.90. So watch out for that. Here is the 12-hour chart. Same thing. I have a line at 62.90. It's the same line. This was actually a good trade based on a 12-hour chart, right? If you're using the sequential system, because look, in the last couple of days, green 2 never above a green 1, green 3 never above a green 2, green 4 never above a green 3. So there have been no bullish trades. In fact, there has not been a single bullish trade on this list other than right here, a green 2 above a green 1. You never had another green number above a prior green number. They were all scaling down, all of them. So there hasn't been a bullish trade in all of July at all. All you've had was bearish opportunities, and you haven't had any of those either. The first one came 12 hours ago at the price of 6,600 when a red 2 went below a red 1. This should accelerate to the downside the moment it goes below 62.90. Here is the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart is not really useful right now. You're getting close to a 9, so maybe a little bit of a rebound. And the 1-hour chart, again, not very useful. There was a 9. You're running it through a countdown phase, and your CMF isn't good. That's it. I honestly think this is our move down to 5,000. It's probably not gonna happen in the first 2 weeks of July, like I've been saying. Maybe it'll happen in the second 2 weeks of July, but I still see 5,000, and then we reevaluate. We'll see. There is a small probability that will be the all-time low of 2018, but probably not. But we'll talk about that when we get to 5,000. That's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else other than my educational section, but that's it.
Not the Liberty Life Trail where you want to talk about your blog, nutrition and working out and...
No, not yet. I have to go broke first. I'll need a new career change.
Yeah, no, I have an ICO to announce.
Oh, God. Good
update.
Started, Rodolfo.
Everybody, you can listen to this later on Tone's Bitcoin audio podcast. And Rodolfo, thank you so much for joining. Looking forward to having you more.
Oh, wait. One last question. Rodolfo, how many projects or like initiatives have you already created in the crypto space? By number.
I don't know, like 10, 20, like things.
How many ICOs have you done to achieve all that?
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's you know, if the product is your share early in the tech, you're not doing it right.
Hey man, thanks for joining us. You think you'll be able to make a couple more of these this week?
Yeah, sure. Well, oh man, this week's gonna be rough. Because I need to get back to Toronto and actually get some stuff done, because 2 conferences in a row, it's it really, like, you can't get anything done. I mean, like, yeah, I am like super tired. That's why I've been so.
All right, cool.
Are you going to
We'll
Stampede?
keep trying.
I did last night.
Oh,
The
was it
reason
awesome?
why I am like so trashed.
Oh, did you wear cowboy boots?
No boots, but I did borrow a hat for a little bit.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun.
So you're representing Jimmy also, you know, today.
But yeah, you need a cowboy hat, man. We got you replacing Jimmy while he's on a quasi vacation.
Nice.
But we're gonna be having you. That's awesome. All right.
All right. Time to go watch football,
right.
I think.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it is. And go Belgium. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.